Welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Hello and welcome to the Chevy Florida Insider Fishing Report. I'm Lauren Bolander, the new kid you've probably heard a little about by now, but I think this guy must be looking pretty familiar to you. Captain Rick Murphy, I am so thrilled to be a part of this team.
You know, Lauren, I'm really happy you're joining us this year, but Lauren, in order to get this job, you can't just be a pretty face and you got to have some broadcasting experience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. I've made a pretty good career out of sports reporting so far, most recently in the world of motorsport. I've reported for the IZOD IndyCar Series as well as some AMA motocross, and lucky for me as an adventure sport enthusiast, and I love to be outside, so you can imagine how thrilling this opportunity is.
Now, you certainly are an outdoor girl. I mean, that's never been more apparent than some of the conversations we've had out on the boat, but I got to tell you, certainly fishing for you is something that you did as a kid. So tell me about that fishing experience.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm originally from the Hoosier State, so for anyone who's ever fished the freshwater streams and lakes of the Midwest, you know that for me, fishing is really smallmouth bass, bluegill, catfish, and baiting is done with the likes of earthworms and crickets and some night crawlers too. And no, Rick, I am not talking about the kind of night crawlers we've all seen down at South Beach, okay?
Now, Lauren, we went fishing. We were able to go down in the Everglades, and the one thing that impressed me is that we were trout fishing, and throwing a plug is not something that's really easy to do. You got to have some ability to cast. You were able to catch a lot of trout that day, as well as you've been over and did some fishing with Jeffrey Page and caught some redfish. But the thing that impressed me is I could really tell that you come from that world of racing, because when I turned you loose on driving the boat, we were off and running, and it was only one speed.
Hey, you didn't give me any rules, so I thought, well, hammer down, right? I'm here to learn from the pros, so I better show you how it's done a little bit.
You're absolutely right. But we need to get into tonight's lineup, and we are talking about some sailfish. So where do we go from here? Yeah, well, as you mentioned, tonight's lineup is all about sailfish. We're going to have our 9 captains from across the state, as always, helping us out with that. And we have Navionics. We'll be zooming in with Rick on the charts of the Southeast region so we can give you some helpful tips there. And as always, we'll head over to the workbench where Captain Harry is filling in for Dave Ferrell tonight. Welcome to the show, Captain Harry.
Great to be back here. We got some great stuff, some good new products that we can go over, and some great ideas on how to make your fishing a little bit better out on the boat, and I can't wait to get this thing going.
Harry, we're really excited about you being here, filling in for Ferrell, but more importantly, I'm really excited about Captain Harry's Fishing Supply being our regional sponsor for the Southeast. But Lauren, you know what? What do they say? Well,
actually, the rumor around here that I heard was if the water's over your head, so is the fishing. Any truth to that? What can you tell me about sailfish?
Well, certainly I'm not an expert in fishing offshore. I've caught my fair share of sailfish, but as we do every week, Lauren, we've got a new contest. We look at photos that are sent in this year. We're going to take viewer photos. Now, this is Lisa Lofton, the wife of Captain Matt Lofton, fishing out of Homestead and won a big, beautiful sailfish they caught out of their 31 contender. The next photo is a guy named Greg Pruitt. And this photo, when I see this, this is what you remember when you catch your first sailfish. And I'm really looking forward to you experiencing that and us sharing that. But then the third photo, which is very unique, is you got Ray Jimenez. And I got to tell you, Ray is out of Coral Springs, but he's fishing out of a flats boat and has caught over 40 spindle beaks out of that flats boat. And Ray, way to go. I love the fact that he's not being limited by fishing out of a little 18-foot old lap stray Q's.
No, Ray's showing you how it's done. I can't wait to get my hands on one of these, hopefully.
No, pretty soon. Jimbo,
right.
he's your man.
All right. Well, actually, you mentioned it, Rick. Lucky for us, we do have one of the top sailfish captains as part of our crew. He's from my neck of the woods. Captain Jimbo Thomas holds it down at Pier 5 in the Miami Marina. He's our man for the Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Southeast region. Jimbo, how is the sailfishing in your area?
Hey, Rick. Hey, Lauren. Welcome to the team.
Thank you so much.
We're going to have to get you out on the Thomas Flyer to catch a sailfish anytime now. They've been biting fairly good the last couple days. And we're pretty fortunate here in the Southeast region. We have some of the best sail fishing in the world. And the nice thing about fishing in the South Florida area is that the deep water and the Gulf Stream is only 2 to 3 miles offshore. Now, we do catch sails year-round by kite fishing or trolling, with the peak season being from December through May. And when the right water conditions line up, the bite can be really unbelievable. What we look for is blue water, north current, and hopefully some north wind. We set up our kite and our flatline spread of live herring, goggle eyes, sardines, and pilchards, anywhere from 80 to 300 feet of water. Aboard the Thomas Flyer, we like to use 20-pound spin outfits on the flatlines and 20-pound conventionals on the kites. We generally use 10 to 15 feet of 60-pound monofilament leader and a 7/0 Mustad circle hook. Now, lately, the sail bite has been very inconsistent, mainly because of the lack of north current. And on the days that the current's been moving, the bite's been decent in the 100 to 180 foot range. Otherwise, it's been hit or miss. Now, the last couple of days in the Miami area, the current has been moving, so we have been seeing some sails. Now, generally, somewhere throughout the region, there's going to be some north current. You just have to figure out where. On the bright side, we still have a couple months left in the so-called sailfish season, so I'm optimistic they'll show up in good numbers sooner or later. Now, this weekend coming up, we've got the Yamaha Contender Miami Billfish Tournament, which is a great event. If anybody, if you're a fisherman, get involved. Otherwise, even if you're not, you can come into the weigh-ins, see the boats, see the fish, join in on the parties. It's a great event. Now, also offshore, what's been showing up in good numbers, at least for this time of the year, have been dolphin. The fish have been decent-sized schoolies. We've had fish up to 25 pounds in the last few days, and I've heard of fish up as high as 40 pounds in the last couple days, so there are some big ones out there. Now, most of the fish, we are catching them on the live baits intended for sailfish, fish under our kites, in the 120 to 180 foot range. Also keep an eye out for frigate birds that are working over these dolphin as they're chasing flying fish, and they're usually moving to the south. So if you do see them coming towards you from the north, and you got your kites out, just try to get lined up with them, and there's a good chance you'll get a bite as they travel to the south. Otherwise, look for the bird activity and troll rig baits or small lures until you locate the fish, and then pitch live or cut baits at them.
All right, Jimbo, before we go inshore, like we do every week here on the Chevy Florida Insider Fisher Report, we're going to take a look at the navionics from your region. Now, the area that Jimbo suggested that we look at this week would be the Bear Cut area. So what we're going to do is, as you know, as we go offshore, what ends up happening is you have all these reefs, and as the tide goes out, it's going to flow and take the bait offshore. Now, if we switch to the sonar sounding, the one thing that comes to mind here is that what it does is it allows you to find exactly where the rim is and where those fish are going to pile up. This is that 120 to 180 feet of water that Jimbo's talking about. The rips are going to form here. That's where the bait's going to be. And guess what? That's where you're going to find the sailfish and the dolphin. All right, Jimbo, let's go ahead and go inshore.
You got it. Well, unlike our sailfish offshore, the tarpon have shown up in good numbers, and they've been very consistent. All of the inlets have been holding tarpon, as well as most of the bridges of the Intercoastal Waterway, and the top inlets have been Government Cut and Holliver Inlet. Now, if you're fishing at Holliver Inlet, the best bet is to fish south of the South Jetty to about a quarter-mile south, and from the swim buoys on out to about 15 feet of water. And then if you're at Government Cut, you can fish either the north or south sides of the jetties on out to about 20 feet of water. Both tides have been good in the evenings, and you want to drift big live shrimp. Use a 60 to 80-pound leader, both mono or fluoro, and a 6/0 to 8/0 circle hook. If you're fishing around the bridges, fish the shadow lines on the outgoing tide with live bait. A big shrimp or mullet should work, or you can cast some swimming plugs from the shadow lines and work your plugs on out. Some of the fish, especially in the inlets, have been up to 150 pounds. Now, also inshore, I was talking to Captain Bouncer Smith, and he reported that the pompano fishing has been really good. The best fishing is on the south sides of any of the jetties or fishing piers throughout the region. Now, the reason the south sides are better is because the jetties and piers kind of act as a blockade as these fish are migrating to the north, and they get kind of schooled up in the corners there where the jetties start. And a pompano jig or live sand fleas, if you can get them, are the top baits. The early morning, just as the sun is rising, and preferably on a high incoming tide, is when these pompano up to 3 pounds are going to bite the best.
All right, way to get us started, Jimbo. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Captain Harry Southeast region. Captain Jimbo recommends inshore, handpick some big live shrimp and fish the evenings in and around your favorite inlet for tarpon. And then offshore, fish live baits in 100 to 180 feet of water for a mixed bag of sailfish, dolphin, kingfish, and an occasional wahoo, Lauren.
All right, well, Rick, if you're looking for something fun to do with the family, check out Rock the Ocean's Tortuga Music Festival. It's April 13th and 14th at Fort Lauderdale Beach Park, of course, in Fort Lauderdale. That sounds like fun.
It is, and you know, the headliner there for that concert, which is being put on by the Ocean Foundation of Guy Harvey, is going to be Kenny Chesney, so you're not going to want to miss that, guys.
Haven't seen him for years. I'd love it.
All right, let's go.
All right. All right, Rick, our La Jolla region, which is the Florida Keys, is another stop for sailfish in the spring, a great one at that. That's where we find Captain Randy Tao. Hey, Randy.
Hey, Lauren, good evening. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
You know, our sailfishing this year has been on the slow side, mainly due to the warm winter we've had. You know, we haven't had a lot of cold fronts, and that's really what we look for to get these sailfish down here going. You know, it's been late in the year. This last few weeks, we've had some cold weather. We've had the right condition, but it's been at the wrong time, and there hasn't been many fish for the average guy to go out and catch. Now, having said that, some of the local captains, this is where they really shine. They know what's going on. They know where the bait is, and they've been able to find some sailfish. And there's been some guys with some pretty decent numbers on the sailfish bite, maybe 5 fish a day, 6 fish a day. I heard of a boat catching 14 last week. So it's the right place at the right time. We've got a lot of ballyhoo on the reef down here. Unlike to the north of us where they fly the kites a lot, we've got the ballyhoos up and down the reef, and that's what a lot of the sailfish are looking for around here. And they can be shallow, and they can be just off the reef. So it's been one of those years we're hoping that with the late cold fronts we're getting, we're going to have some decent tailing fishing. We have a condition coming up that allows the fish to tail. They get up on the surface, they tail down sea, and it's a lot of sight casting. We need wind for that. We need current. And usually this time of year, you're going to have that, especially down toward Key West. You got some of the big tournaments starting next week, and a lot of those tournaments are going to have a tailing condition that those guys are going to be looking for. And that's really what we're hoping is going to spark our sailfish season to be a little better than what it's turned out to be.
All right, so why don't you go ahead and tell me what's happening offshore, Randy?
You know, the mutton snapper fishing, I do a lot of bottom fishing, as you know. I love yellowtails, muttons, groupers, and that sort of thing. This year we've had a great bite on the mutton snappers, very consistent. I like fishing live ballyhoos. It's a great bait for the mutton snappers on the reef or off the reef. If you're anchored down yellowtailing, and you're there for enough time, an hour or so, more than likely there's a mutton in your chum line. You can drop a live ballyhoo back on a long leader and get a bite. I like fishing some of the deeper stuff, anywhere from 100 to 200 feet. I'm fishing a 40-foot fluorocarbon 30-pound leader with a live ballyhoo, and we've been having some really good success on our mutton fishing down here. I have a photograph of a good friend of mine, Scott Reed. These are some of the mutton snappers we've been catching on a regular basis down here.
All right, well, let's go inshore, man. Great muttons there.
Red fishing in Flamingo, I'll tell you what, probably the most consistent thing we have going on for the last year or two are the redfish back in the backcountry. Bayside of Islamorada, Flamingo, and almost anywhere, you're going to find these redfish up on the flats. You're going to find them on the shorelines. You're going to find them in the channels, the runoffs. And a lot of the guys with the technical boats, they're up on top of the flat. When you have water, sight casting, getting plenty of shots. They've kind of taken over where the bonefish used to be. But a great fish. We've had plenty of them. I've been catching plenty myself in some of the deeper waters and around the channels with the mangroves. 3 to 5 pounds, maybe they average. The ones up on top of the flats, a little bit bigger. But for the average guy, you can have some great fun with a hookup and a shrimp. You're going to catch some nice redfish. I've got a picture of 12-year-old Sebastian San Marco with one of the mini redfish we caught fishing with his grandfather a few weeks ago.
I love seeing those kids out fishing. Good job, Randy. What else you got for me inshore, bub?
Trout fishing. You know, the trout bite has been strong, especially with these late cold fronts. Very consistent. Probably the #1 fish that everybody catches, and it's a lot of fun. There's several ways to do it. I like a Trigger X on a hookup 1/4 ounce. I like a 1/4 ounce hookup jig with a shrimp. Either of those combos work great. The edges of the channels where you find the current moving, especially the low tides. I like the low tides where the water's off the flats, and a lot of these fish are concentrated in some of the channels and the deeper water. That's going to be your best bet. When the tide's up, you know, the fish can go anywhere they want to go. They're a little harder to find. So the trout fishing's very consistent on these lower tides, and you can look for the muds, you can look along the channels, and you're going to find these. I've got a picture of young James Del Vesco with one of the mini trout he caught fishing with me just the other day.
All right, great job, Randy. We appreciate your hard work. Great report from the La Jolla, Florida Keys region. I'm going to go ahead and get to the hot spots, and we'll see what Captain Randy recommends. Inshore, trout. Look along the channels around Flamingo and fish a shrimp and a 1/4 ounce hookup. And then offshore, mutton snapper, look for 140 to 160 feet of water and drift with live ballyhoo and a 40-foot leader, Lauren.
Now let's check in to see what tournaments are going on in the Keys. First off, the Key West Sailfish Championship is a new 4-day tournament going on now through Sunday. The prize purse exceeds $100,000 with $50,000 paid for the winner of the pro division and $15,000 for the non-pro class. Next up, with a guaranteed open division purse of $100,000 is the invitation-only World Sailfish Championship set for April 10th to the 14th. In Key West, it benefits Camp Boggy Creek for youngsters with life-threatening illnesses and the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. Benefiting the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, the REDBONE at-large Sunrise Sunset Tarpon Tournament is set for April 26th to the 28th in Isla Mirada. It's the first tournament of the 2013 tarpon season in the Florida Keys. Last, the Tarponian Tournament in Marathon is a 3-evening tarpon tournament scheduled April 28th through May 1st. Teams fish with a different captain and rotate among 3 major Florida Key bridges, Key Bridge channels each evening. All right, Rick.
Now we're going to go to Andy Newman. So, Andy, why don't you tell us what's going on this week about down in the Keys with the Florida tournaments?
Hey, Rick, great to be back with you for another year. And Lauren, welcome to the show. Now, this weekend marks the beginning of the 48th edition of the 8-month-long Key West Fishing Tournament. It's free and open to everyone. Now, this tournament, Rick, runs through November 30th, and it awards thousands of citations and many trophies to anglers fishing in the lower Keys and Key West. There is never a charge to enter catches or releases at any of 17 different way stations, or you can simply fish with a registered Florida Keys charter boat captain or guide. There's nearly 40 species of fish that are targeted, and there's divisions for men, women, junior anglers, and even peewees. And the tournament features Master Angler Awards in each division for both residents and visitors. Now, more details, Rick and Lauren, they can be found at the Key West Fishing Tournament's website. It's keywestfishingtournament.com. And, of course, Rick, more information on other tournaments and events in the Florida Keys, where can that be found?
FLA-keys.com, Andy. How about that?
You don't even need the dash. You can just say FLAkeys.com. Rick and Lauren?
All right, good job, Andy. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year with you. All right, Lauren.
At least you got it right that time, right?
I got it.
Honestly.
I always get it.
I mean, honestly. All right, you guys, stay with us. On the other side of the break, we head to the East region and check in with Captain Mike Holliday, and we'll also check in with Captain Harry at the workbench for Off the Deep End. And now you can check us out on our website, like us on Facebook, and even follow us on Twitter. Don't go away, because there's lots more to come on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Chevy. Find new roads. Best parts, best prices. Bennett Auto Supply. YETI Coolers. Wildly stronger. Keep ice longer. Captain Harry's Fishing Supply Company. The IGFA. Conservation through education. Get your hands wet. And Alukai.
Want the power of a V8 with the highway fuel economy of a V6? Yes, sir. 40,000 more warranty miles than an F-150 work for you?
Sure does.
Does the lowest cost of ownership nod the Silverado got help with the decision?
It makes the decision.
Copy that.
Sold.
Chevy Silverado. Now get the best pickup coverage in America with 0% financing for 60 months. Plus, Chevy truck owners can trade up for an additional $2,000 total cash allowance, or Chevy truck owners trade up to get a total value of $7,500.
It's 200 streamlined horsepower of Yamaha forward thinking. The all-new F200 inline 4-stroke. Whether you're an offshore angler, pontoon cruiser, bay boater, or walleye hunter, the responsive and fuel-efficient F200 combines amazing power and versatility in one incredibly compact and lightweight package. The all-new F200. Legendary Yamaha reliability and the freedom of forward thinking.
Looking for some action? You've come to the right place. The Florida Keys and Key West. Yeah.
And now we have our news and notes from the FWC. The statewide license-free freshwater fishing day is April 6th. Then tarpon and bonefish catch and release day is April 8th. The youth alligator hunt in Palm Beach County is April 12th, and Backpacking 101 in Brooksville on April 13th. You can find more information at myfwc.com. Now it's time for Off the Deep End. Hey guys.
Well, thanks, Lauren. And I got to tell you, Harry, you know, since day one of this show, we've always done Off the Deep End and rigs and techniques over here at the workbench. And I got to tell you, I'm real excited about having you on board. So, sail fishing, something we really do a lot of here in Southeast Florida.
Oh, yes, we do. We do a lot of, obviously, the kite fishing, which is very important out here. Having your rigs pre-made is, like, incredibly important. And what we like to do is we put them on these extra large yo-yos. So when it comes off this yo-yo, you're not going to have a big memory. You're just
pre-rigged leaders.
Pre-rigged leaders. Everything's all made up. As you can see, you pull this off of here. It's got a 15-foot leader, and then we just pull it, and it comes up to the very next hook, and it's going to have a loop on it.
Oh, I got
So it's ready to go. So all you're going to do is pull this off. You're ready to go to hook this right, snap it right onto the next snap swivel.
Nice.
And you just pitch your bait up, get your bait, bridle it up, and then obviously that's just, it's quick and easy. Sit there, retying a knot, cut it off, and it's just a pain in the butt. This is just being ready if you want to have a good day. Sailfish are, you know, you got a pot of them in the back of the boat. What I like to have ready in the boat is a little koozie with the bridles already made up, with the needles, with the rubber bands, which these rubber bands, obviously, they go into the hook.
Right.
And that's going to be, you go right into the whatever, goggle eye, thread fin.
Back.
Right through his back.
Maybe like someplace right in here. If this was a thread fin, we'd go right in here.
Some guys go through the back, some guys go through the nose. The ballyhoo, if you're going to use the ballyhoo, you go right up through the bottom actually through the top down, so the hook's on top.
Got it.
And it's just a quick, easy rig. Goes around, and it pulls off the needle, and you're ready to go again. And have a bunch rigged up, already gone. You know, have this in your holder. Have your spare floats. All your stuff ready to go.
Now, Harry, these pieces of equipment are primarily for when we're kite fishing, correct?
Yes, that's for your kite fishing.
So let's go over this real quick. So you've got, the kite is out, and it's 150, 200 feet behind the boat.
Correct.
So we've got a spool like this, obviously, is on your kite reel. So you have your clips. How far do you like the baits to be apart?
I like a good spread. I go from the kite itself, it's going to be 80 feet to the first clip. And then I do 80, 80, 80.
Okay.
So that's what I like about that is when I put that kite out 200 yards, 100 yards, whatever it is, I have a good spread. I'm covering a good, channel of water. If I'm flying two kites, I'll make that a little shorter.
Right.
And you're covering everything, which is very important out there. When the fish come up, you've got a shot at getting multiples. You could let the kite further out or bring it further in to get more on the bait.
Now, a lot of guys, I mean, not just in the south region where we're kite fishing, but your region goes up to Palm Beach in that area. So if you're not kite fishing, what would you typically fish with?
Well, this is something that, I'll tell you what, this little guy right here, this guy's been phenomenal. This Mylar Blue Boy Mirage particular lure, this thing is great over a ballyhoo. When I like trolling for with the ballyhoo and with this type of a lure, the sucker, this thing blows water. It doesn't come out and skipping and flopping. You want it just chugging. It looks like a little bonita going across the top of the water. And this thing's going to sit there and copy that. And what's great about this particular lure, if this ballyhoo gets cut off, gets pulled off, you got the lure still working for you.
I got you.
So that fish comes up, he tastes it, you don't get him the first shot. This lure's still working for you, and it's gonna do a great job. And we've caught quite a few billfish on this particular lure already, so it's a good one.
All right, so the next thing that we need to think about is what?
Releasing them.
Releasing. Okay, so now we've got our fish. Is there anything that you'd suggest?
You got to keep the boat in gear. When you're with a sailfish or any other species, keep the boat moving. That fish will swim right with you the whole time. You're able to get the leader right up to the boat. The fish swims over there. You've got your release mechanism.
So I've got him wired. I got him right beside the boat.
So what you want to do is get as close as to the hook. If you can take the hook out by hand without harming the fish, that's great. But best deal is get down as close as possible. get your rig in there, your blade, and just pops, boom.
And that way he's not carrying around 15 feet of leader.
Right, and it's end up, carrying that much leader on there, eventually they end up dying. They don't make it. I don't think they do. So it's best to release the fish for another day. We got to support our little kids.
Well, I'm going to tell you, conservation started with the Miami Billfish Tournament and all release.
Yep.
That's going on this weekend.
That's
Tell
coming up this weekend. Yeah, that's coming up on it's Friday and Saturday this weekend at Miami Beach Marina. And I'll tell you what, it's a great tournament. You don't have to be a participant. Come on down to the dock. We have a party Friday and Saturday, and all the contender boats, Yamahas, they all come in. We're weighing the fish. I'm the weighmaster there for that event, which is a lot of fun. And it's just a great event for the whole family to come down and have a good time.
It sounds great because we got fun fish, which is wahoo, tunas, dolphin, and then we also have the sailfish. So you could be out there and actually incidentally catch one of these fun fish, bring it in, weigh it, and there's a whole separate prize structure for that.
Oh, there's several different prize structures for that.
Good to have you over here. We appreciate everything you do for us. And, Lauren, somehow or another, we got to keep this show going, and you're the bus driver, so where are we going?
That's right. Load it up, guys, because next up tonight is the East region from Lake Worth all the way north to Sebastian Inlet. That's where Captain Mike Holliday is in charge. Hey, Mike, let's talk about some sailfish.
Hey, Lauren. It's been sort of a less than spectacular sailfish season, but that being said, the bite's actually been really good the last week. The fish are scattered in anywhere from 120 to 200 feet of water. I was talking to Captain Scott Fawcett out of Stewart yesterday. He went 2 for 4 fishing for sails in 165 feet of water on the Jupiter ledge. Now, Fawcett was trolling naked ballyhoo with a 50-pound fluorocarbon leader and a 7.0 VMC tournament circle hook. Now, off Palm Beach, the sardines are just starting to show up, and you'll find a few sails working those bait schools. And the bait schools are anywhere from 60 to 150 feet of water, and it seems like 150 is a magic depth off Palm Beach right now, and sardines seem to be the best bait. The one good thing about the sail bite is that the fish are traveling in small groups of 2 to 5 fish, so when they do show in the spread, it's usually in multiples. A lot of the fish are small, let's say under 30 pounds. They use smaller ballyhoo or smaller live bait. And look for the fish surfing south anytime we have that north wind. A lot of fish are moving that way right now. Average sailfish is 25 to 35 pounds. I got a photo there. Scott Fawcett sent me that photo of one of the sails I got the other day. They caught that in 163 feet of water, and that fish ate a trolled ballyhoo.
All right, Mike, let's stay offshore. What do you got going on?
Well, it's already been an outstanding year for dolphin in my region. The big fish for April are just going to start showing up any day now. And anytime you have a north wind, those dolphin are biting really well. The best concentrations seem to be in 150 to 400 feet of water, around any floating, rips, weeds, debris, stuff like that. There's also a fair number of free-swimming fish out in the open water with sort of no rhyme or reason to their movements. But there's a lot of flying fish right now, and it's pretty common to just see flying fish take off into the air and then a big dolphin just on their tail. You can troll ballyhoo or strip bait to cover ground. Maybe put a green, a pink, or a blue and white skirt on it. When you find the good floating weeds aboard, you can stop and pitch out some live baits or slow troll those areas. And as always, keep a couple spinning rods rigged with a yellow 1-ounce hookup jig or a yellow Rapala skitter walk or a hook with just some cut bait in case you come across some schoolies. Average dolphin right now, 10 to 20 pounds in my region.
All right, let's go inshore. That's where you make your money, bud.
It is, and it's April, so that means the snook fishing is going off in my region. The larger concentrations of fish are either in the brackish rivers like the Loxahatchee and the St. Lucie Inlet, or St. Lucie River, or around the inlets and bridges. In St. Lucie County, North Bridge and Fort Pierce, Taylor Creek Railroad Bridge, the deeper holes in the middle of the Fort Pierce Inlet, those are the places to fish. In Martin County, it's more like the Roosevelt and Palm City bridges and the docks of the St. Lucie River and around the St. Lucie Inlet. And then in Palm Beach County, it's up in the Loxahatchee River on the Boy Scout camp or the A1A Bridge in Jupiter or the spillway and docks of the Ermine Canal. Now, for bait, pretty hard to beat a live shrimp, a filter to pinfish, or a sand perch this time of the year. Freeline it using a 2.0 to 5.0 VMC circle hook and 30 to 50-pound Suffolk fluorocarbon leader. And on the warmer days, you can start on the seawalls throwing topwater plugs like a skitter walk or a Yozuri 3D pencil. Throw those in black and gold or black and silver. And then around the bridges or spillways at night, you want to throw something that has a big profile like a chartreuse bass assassin 6-inch swim bait with a 1-ounce jig head on it, or olive-colored subwalk in that black and silver color, or maybe even a magneto. But over the next month, those fish are really going to start pushing to the inlets. And I got a photo right now. That's a photo of what we're seeing around the inlets right now, and it's a lot of those hybrid snips, those fat snips. Now, they have a smaller mouth, so if you're fishing around the inlets and you find you're missing fish or they're popping baits and you're missing them, go to smaller baits or smaller lures, and you'll get those hybrids.
All right, what else you got for me inshore?
Well, the sea trout bite in the Indian River is crazy good. A lot of 3 to 5 pound fish being caught, mostly on soft plastic, like a drunk monkey-colored bass assassin jerkbait, or a little tapper bass assassin in that Houdini, or the molting, or the snowstorm color. You know, throw 1/8 ounce jig head and fire them to the potholes. The fish are still a little deep. A lot of them are holding in 2 to 4 feet of water on the outside of the docks and on the outside edges of the grass. And as always, you know, shrimp and a popping cork is going to be a good bait. Best bites are from about 9 a.m., from dawn till about 9 a.m., and some good spots right now are the Spoil Islands in the Indian River south of Harbor Branch, the J.C. Park Flats, the Manitou Zone sign south of Bear Point, and the double bars off Middle Cove. Pay attention also to the size limit, because a lot of those fish are over the 20-inch slot limit.
Now, Mike, before we go to the bass, I messed up. We forgot a snook photo. Why don't you tell me about this snook photo, please?
Yeah, that's one of those fat snooks, and that's what's around the inlet. They spawn a little earlier than the common snook, and they have a smaller mouth on them. So if you're fishing baits or you're fishing lures and you get fish hitting your lures and missing, it's probably because it's those hybrids. You'll notice they got a smaller mouth. Drop to a smaller bait, and you'll start catching them.
All right, so like we do every week, tell me about the bass fishing.
Well, I was talking to Captain Mike Shellen out in Okeechobee. He said the water temperatures are in the 70s, and the big bass are just chewing. They're coming off the spawn in the Kissimmee grass areas around Grassy Island, and the eelgrass areas on the North Shore are producing fish up to 10 pounds right now. Die-dappers, little tappers, white spinnerbaits, topwater plugs like a skitterwalk in the frog colors, and logger toads are catching big numbers of fish. But the biggest fish are definitely coming on live shiners. Guys are averaging probably 30 fish a day right now. If you're fishing shiners, that's more like 50 to 60 fish a day. And also Pelican Bay and South Bay also have good numbers of fish, mostly on those outside grass lines. The fish are post-spawn, so they're moving out to the outside edges. Average bass on Okeechobee, 1 to 3 pounds. It's springtime. Okeechobee's on fire, guys.
All right, great report, Mike. We look forward to talking to you every week. I'm going to go ahead and get to the Bennett Auto Supply hotspots from the East region. Captain Mike says inshore, nighttime snook at the Roosevelt Bridge in Stewart, live shrimp on a jig head or artificials, and remember to fish are deep. And then offshore, dolphin, wahoo, sailfish in 150 to 250 feet of water from Sloan's Curve to Jupiter Ledge. Troll dead or live baits on a number 6 wire, Lauren.
All right, when we come back, we're headed over to the Panhandle with Pat Deneen, plus the Florida Insider Fishing Report is going on tour. We'll tell you where after the break.